Hey you guys, it's Peter and welcome to my channel, Peter Watches TV, where I watch all the TV shows and then I come over here and I react to them. And today I want to talk about the newest true crime documentary that came out on Netflix just last week. It is called Unknown Number, The High School Catfish. Okay, I get a lot of direct messages from people, a lot of comments from people asking me to react to shows, giving me suggestions for shows, but I just have to say, over the last 2 to 3 days, I have received literally hundreds of direct messages from people asking me what I thought about this documentary. Hundreds, you guys. It's crazy. I was going through my DMs, and so I have my main Instagram, my Peter Mon Instagram, and then I have an Instagram for this channel that is called Peter Watches TV. It's linked below if you want to every night know what I'm watching on TV. I also post my reviews over there, so go follow my Peter Watches TV Instagram. But on both of the accounts, I was getting tons and tons of messages, and what was interesting was people were like, have you seen this already? Have you seen this show? Like, I want to know what you think about it. And I already posted that I was like watching it like the night before. And so then I felt like I had to post it again because I was like, oh my God, people don't know that I've watched this. I'm getting so many messages about it. And understandably so. The show is crazy. But I just want to say thank you guys so much for reaching out to me and asking me for my reaction to this show. Before I'd even watched it, several people had reached out to me and said, you need to watch this. Like, this is crazy town. And I didn't really know what to think about it, in all honesty. I saw online that people were kind of comparing it to the Tendler Swindler. It's not anything like the Tendler Swindler. And they were comparing it to some other show that I'd watched. And I was like, I can't even remember what the other show was that I watched, about 3 women that were catfished. And it's nothing like those at all. This is not I would say, a uniform catfishing show. I think it's behind the catfishing is a huge part of this show. But it's really not about that. I mean, I was looking online and they're like, what's the meaning behind this show? And they're like, the harm of cyberbullying. And I'm like, yes, that's true. That's a big part of this documentary. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you don't want this documentary spoiled, do not watch the rest of this video. I'm giving you 5 seconds right now to get out of this video before I tell you what this movie is really about, okay? Okay, now I'm going to spoil it for you. This documentary is, yes, it's about cyberbullying, it's about cyber harassment, it's about cyber stalking. I think the message behind all of that is really, really important. But it was really about the insidious sickness of this mother and what she did to her daughter. That's really what the documentary is about. If it wasn't for that, I don't think that people would be so shocked by this documentary. I think that needs to be noted, especially as people are talking about what they think of this woman right now, this Kendra, Lauren's mother in this documentary. So before we get into all that, let's do a little background about what this documentary is about, because I know some of you have not watched it. I would highly, this has been the documentary that I have recommended to people all weekend long. We went to 2 dinners this weekend, and I was talking to a lot of people on the phone. The dinner on Sunday, I recommended to everybody. I was like, you've got to watch this documentary. It is so good. So People Magazine wrote up a full article about it. I'm just going to skim through it. What is the true story behind Unknown Number, The High School Catfish, Inside the Shocking Small Scandal? And the only reason I'm reading this to you is to kind of give you just some background story. The Netflix documentary, Unknown Number, The High School Catfish, explores a disturbing case of a high school couple who were cyber-stalked for nearly 2 years. What you need to know, Unknown Number, The High School Catfish follows the real story of Lauren Licari and Owen McKinney. The high school couple were cyber-stalked and bullied by an unknown aggressor until the FBI uncovered the shocking identity of the perpetrator. Netflix's documentary, out August 29th, revisits the shocking case. Yet again, another case that I have heard I've never heard of this case. I didn't know anything about this case. Goes on, talks about Netflix documentary Unknown Number, The High School Catfish, tells the real-life account of a teenage couple who were cyber-bullied for nearly 2 years before the culprit was identified as someone no one expected. In a small town of Beale City, Michigan, Lauren Licari and Owen McKinney were called the Golden Couple. Together since junior high, I think they started dating when they were 13, they said in the documentary. They entered high school closer than ever. Out of nowhere, a group text was sent to both Licari and McKinney from an unknown number claiming he was cheating on her. They found it odd but dismissed it. A year later, the texts returned at an alarming rate, up to 40 to 50 a day. By the end there were 1,000 pages of text messages. The messages, as shown in the documentary, and they show all, I mean, they don't show all of them, but they show the majority of them, threatened Licari and made sexually explicit advances towards Owen McKinney. Because the sender used an app that kept regenerating new phone numbers, Licari and McKinney were unable to block them. It also prevented law enforcement from tracing the texts. And so what happened was, they started dating when they were 13 years old. They were both very involved in athletics. Their families became very, very close. Their mothers became very close. So Lauren and Owen started dating. It seemed to me, the way that they kind of presented it in the documentary, was that it was kind of a very innocent kind of dating at 13 years old. And it wasn't maybe too serious, kind of like best friends that were like dating. And then their families became very close. Their families did like a lot of barbecues together, bonfires, would like hang out together. Their moms became really, really close. And then it was when they were going into their freshman year in high school. And Owen seemed to be the more popular of the two. Like, Lauren didn't really have a lot of friends, a lot of girlfriends. And Owen was a little bit more popular than Lauren was. But they were seen as that's kind of how they portray it in the documentary. But Owen and Lauren enter high school together. So the school they went to, which was in Beale City, Michigan, Beale City School, I think is what it's called. I think it had 600 students from kindergarten all the way through senior year in high school. So each class had 30 students in it, which, just to put this in perspective, I graduated with 670 students in my high school class. My class had 670 students. So they only had 30 students a class, like senior class, 30 kids, junior class, 30 kids, kindergarten, 30 kids. So they knew all the kids that they had grown up with through the years. And so they enter high school. This one girl is having a Halloween party, okay? I cannot remember her name. It's Chloe, I think is her name. Hold on, it goes down here and talks about, where is this at? Yeah, Craig Wilson and Tammy Wilson, because their daughter is the one that gets accused. Chloe is her name. So Chloe is friends with Owen, and she is hosting this Halloween party. Lauren does not want to go to the Halloween party, okay? But she goes anyway. And they're getting ready to go there. Lauren receives a text message that says, Owen doesn't love you anymore. He's going to break up with you. He's in love with me. He doesn't want to be with you, blah, 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 whatever. Lauren doesn't really know what to make of it. So then they go to this Halloween party. That's when the text messages start, okay? Then a bunch of stuff happens. And then a year later, well, I think the Halloween party actually is before they even get to high school. And then a year later, I think and here it says that it's the Halloween party is in high school. But I think that actually the Halloween party starts before they go to high school. Then they go to high school. And when they go to high school, a year later, 10 months later, is when the text messages start again. Over the course of 22 months, they receive thousands, I mean, all day long, literally all day long, just text message after text message. The text messages are so horrific in nature. Well, first of all, towards him, they're very, very sexual. Towards her, they are things that are saying, you're the ugliest person I've ever seen. They're body shaming her. They're talking about her having eating disorders. They're talking about her being mentally unwell. Many of the messages tell her to hurt herself, to end it. The messages are horrific, okay? Telling her to take her own life, things like, there are horrific messages. But the messages are sexual in nature to her as well. A lot is made out in the documentary about the sexual nature of the text messages towards him, and I understand why they do that at the end. But I think it's also important to note that a lot of the sexual messages that they read they read in the documentary to her are sexual as well. And when we get to who the perpetrator was, that's why it's important, because they would say things to Lauren that would say things like, he wants me to do this, and all over his face. And it was unbelievable, okay? They were extremely violent. They were extremely angry. The vitriol and the anger from them, and they were extremely sexual in nature. They were disgusting text messages. The one police officer and the superintendent are like, we had never seen anything like this before. Never seen anything like this before. So a lot of the kids at school are trying to kind of figure out, as they would, like, who is it? So they're trying to have conversations around certain people. to see like if certain things, like if they're having a conversation around Judy and then all of a sudden they get a text about that, maybe it's Judy. So a lot of the kids are trying to figure it out because a lot of the text messages are occurring while they're in school. Like they'll be in a science class and somebody will, like they'll get a text about something that happens in science class, or a pair of leggings that Lauren's wearing, or a jacket that Owen is wearing. So they know that it has to be somebody that is at the school as well. So then they're looking around at all their students. They don't trust anybody. Then they start looking into this Chloe girl. Well, Chloe, they track her, like she goes out of town to this trip to Florida at one point, and they track the number to like all of a sudden it becomes a Florida number because they're using this app. It actually explains it in this article, but they use this app. It's like a phone number. It's like you buy like, what you would do is buy like a fake phone, not a fake phone, but you know, like a side phone, what's like a sock phone. And then you would buy like through this app, it just constantly is changing the number. So it comes up unknown number, and it's through an app that you use. So it's pretty sophisticated of what they're doing. So that also, at this point, I'm watching a documentary. They've cleared Lauren. Because there was a part of me that at the beginning of it when I was watching it was like, is she doing this to herself? Is this like self-hatred run wild? Like, is she hate herself so much that she's doing this to herself? Some of her friends at school were speculating that maybe she wanted attention. They were saying that she liked attention. Was this for attention? But the police rule Lauren out. They rule Owen out. They rule teachers out. They rule the parents out. They rule most of the friends out except for this Chloe girl. You really think it's this Chloe girl. But she's interviewed. Now, I don't know if you watch documentaries like this, but I watch it like ain't nobody sitting in jail. So these people they're interviewing, none of them are in jail, none of them are incarcerated right now, and we're going up to 2022. So you would think whoever did it is still sitting in jail because they talk about cyber stalking, they talk about cyber harassment. I mean, there's like 5 charges that the perpetrator gets convicted of. So I'm sitting here and I'm watching this, and I'm like, who could it possibly be? Well, the police detective, the police sheriff in charge, he's kind of got his hands tied. It's a small town. I don't know. The one parents at the end, I kind of lived for them. Chloe's parents, they go off. They go off at the end, and rightfully so, because their daughter, like, they said, our daughter lost a year of her life for it. And I think it's easy to say, well, so did Lauren and Owen, but Chloe did nothing. Chloe did absolutely nothing to be pinpointed and targeted and blamed for this whole thing, okay? She did nothing to deserve that. And she was an outcast at her school, and people thought it was her, and I felt really bad for that girl. She is interviewed. She doesn't really say a whole lot. Her parents say more than she does. So anyway, this police investigator is like, we got to call in the FBI and get them involved. So they call in the FBI to get the FBI involved. And it's the FBI agent is just like, I mean, police detective, sheriff, no offense, maybe not the sharpest knife in the drawer. FBI, real sharp, okay? And so he gets all the numbers, okay? Or he gets all the times or whatever and pins the numbers of where the numbers are pinned. Oh, this is what happens. So Lauren and Owen finally break up because Owen is like, if this is because we're together, if we break up, maybe it'll stop. And Lauren's like, no. And Owen's like, no, this is what's best. So they break up. About 6 months later, but the text messages continue. About 6 months later, Owen starts dating a girl 2-3 hours, I think 3 hours away in another town in Michigan, some small town. She and her mother start getting text messages, okay? So then the FBI agent clocks like the IP addresses or whatever, and so he's tracking the IP addresses, okay? So he's getting a search warrant for the IP addresses that are being used on these text messages. Then he goes in to the website that is providing the phone number, the fake phone numbers with the IP addresses, does a search warrant there, finds out that it's a Verizon number, goes into Verizon, this FBI agent, I was like, he did this like in like a week. And the police officer and the superintendent are like, we don't know what to do. They couldn't figure out, they didn't even know how to wipe their ass. And this FBI agent comes in a week and figures it all out. And that's why the one parents of Chloe's were like, if he hadn't come in, she'd still be blamed for this. And so he comes in, and I think it's Verizon. He serves a search warrant to Verizon to get the numbers that are attached. And the only number that repeatedly comes up attached to these IP addresses and text messages are Lauren Licari's mother, Kendra. The one that has been going to the school every day with Owen's mother, talking to the superintendent, talking to the police officer, trying to get to the bottom of all of this. I am like fucking mind blown. I am like, what? The mother was behind this? And I'll be honest with you, when it started clicking for me, so they go to her house, okay? They got like a search warrant for the house, and they got to get all her devices and stuff. And to be honest with you, The police that had read the text messages, the messages were disgusting, okay? I mean, the least of it was like, you should go jump off a bridge, okay? That was like the least of it. Some of them were disgusting. I mean, they were things from like, I don't know how you live with yourself every day, to you are so disgusting. I mean, they were so vile. They were so sexual in nature. They were disgusting, okay? The police officers go over to Kendra's house. They're like, can we go inside and talk to you for a little bit? She's like, yeah, sure. So she goes inside, and they're real nice to her. I don't know if they felt like she was going to go crazy and do something. I don't know what, but like the police are real nice to her. I don't know that I could have been that nice. And so they're like, well, you know, we're asking you about this. She gives it up real quick. She's like, well, it didn't start off like that. She claims she was not the one that started the text messages, but she picked up afterwards. Okay. So she's been sending thousands of messages. Well, then it comes out that she done lost these 2 jobs. She was an IT specialist. Maybe she never had a job. She was working for a university. So she has literally sat at home for almost 2 years doing nothing but cyber stalking her daughter and her daughter's ex-boyfriend for 2 years, okay? Sending the most sexually explicit text messages to this young man, sending messages to her daughter telling her daughter she should die. Okay, I mean, at one point they asked her, weren't you worried that your daughter would do something? She's like, oh no, I knew my daughter. I knew she wouldn't do something to herself. I'm like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding? You are this woman was so sick. I was blown away. And you know, I have received online my fair share of criticism and negativity. Some of you might even want to call it hate. And I've also, for those of you that know, I have received my fair share of stalking online. I think it would be really important for people to look up the definitions, the legal definitions of stalking, because I've now watched 2 stalking shows, and in watching both of them, I was not necessarily clear on how low the definition is for cyber stalking. I mean, cyber stalking is really just obsessive nature with somebody and repeatedly harassing them or whatever. And so when you look into it, it's a little bit interesting. But when I was watching the show, I was like, I don't know why I'm surprised by people anymore. I'm not surprised why, like, if a mother would do this to her daughter, it makes total sense that somebody online with too much free time and a miserable life would get obsessed with a stranger that they will never meet. If a mother will do this to their daughter, like, now I'm not surprised by anything. You know what I mean? And so I'm watching this and I'm like, is this for fucking real? Like, there's gotta be something more to it. And I look, I'm like a half an hour before the show's over. And I'm like, so the police are asking her, and she's got her legs up in the kitchen. She's like, I don't know. She kind of turns, it's real weird. And then she's like, her daughter's right next to her. I will say this, because I saw a couple people say this online, and I didn't want to say it because I felt bad about it, but people are like, Lauren didn't seem surprised. Lauren didn't seem surprised to me. I don't think that Lauren was involved in it, but Lauren did not seem surprised to me. I mean, the police the whole time, they showed the cam footage of the police officers talking to her, okay? Then they tell Lauren to call her dad, to have her dad come there, okay? Because they want to make sure that it's all, like, the dad knows everything. The dad seems more upset with the fact that she done lost her 2 jobs or never had them for 2 years. He seems more upset about that. The mom later talks about, well, I was in a bad place. I had a lot of financial problems. We couldn't pay our bills. Why don't you go get a fucking job at the McDonald's up the street instead of texting sexual messages to your daughter's ex-boyfriend all day long? How about you try that to fucking pay the bills? Okay, you want to talk about financial reasons being the reason why you're nut fucking crazy. Okay, well, why don't you go get a job at the Dollar Tree and try to pay some fucking bills instead of text messaging your daughter that she should jump off a bridge all day long? And then she's like, well, I got a lot of childhood trauma. Baby, we all got childhood trauma, okay? That don't take it to that length. I am so tired of people's bullshit excuses, of all that kind of stuff, okay? Precious had some childhood trauma too. She ain't killing everybody. Like, that's some bullshit out there. I'm sorry. Like, listen, I have childhood trauma. I feel bad for anybody that has childhood trauma out there, okay? But we got to start working on healing it instead of using it as an excuse for bad behavior. And I know that that's not a popular opinion. But when I get in these documentaries, at the end of this mom's like, well, I just had all this bad stuff happen to me. My parents were divorced. I'm like, she had some horrible shit happen to her. She was assaulted. I have a lot of friends of mine that were assaulted multiple times. Weren't doing this. Are fantastic mothers. Are fantastic mothers. And went through some of the same experiences that this woman went through. It doesn't make it an excuse. It's an explanation. It's an explanation. It helps us understand. But it's not an excuse. And so the whole time she's like rubbing her daughter's back. And I'm like, you literally did, your daughter is the victim. She's like hugging her daughter. And Lauren, I don't know if she was in shock. I'm like, she's got to be in shock because she's not reacting to this at all. Then the husband comes in. He's a little off too. And he's just pissed about this job. And he's like, you need to get her out of here. So he calls her parents to come pick her up. He's like, you need to get her out of here because we're going to, I mean, he at least was clear thinking. He's like, one of us is going to do something and then there's not going to be anybody to take care of Lauren. So then the mom goes and, hold on, I got some notes in here because this is the part where I kind of got lost. But messages were disgusting. Mother telling her to hurt herself. I mean, this woman was so disturbed. And I'm like, this has nothing to do with the daughter. One of the things you got to understand about stalking and harassment and cyberbullying is that if you are the recipient of any kind of cyberbullying or online harassment or online criticism, or if you are the recipient of in-person bullying, like in a school, family members can be bullied. I've talked a lot about bullied. I grew up being bullied. What it took me a long time to realize was the person that is the victim is the most affected and the least involved. They are the one that has really nothing to do with the situation at all. You know, if you are out there and you are being bullied on a day, that has nothing, it affects you and you are greatly tormented and affected by it, but it has very little to do with you. It is a direct mirror and reflection of the person that is doing it and has absolutely nothing to do. Lauren had nothing to do with this. I mean, that we know of, but I'm saying that if it came from her mother, it wasn't about Lauren at all, you know? And so, I mean, this woman was so disturbed. And then they're going in and they're talking about, well, maybe she had Munchausen syndrome. Now we're doing this like, we're on TV true crime documentaries diagnosing her. And what they said was that she had Munchausen syndrome because she would hurt her through the text messages. And then when Lauren would come home, she could like heal her. Because like instead of being physically, making her physically sick, she was mentally sick. And then she would run home and then her mom would be like, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And all this kind of stuff. And that she made her mentally sick so that she could be able to care for her. And I'm like, but she hurt so many other people as well. She had hurt Owen. She hurt Owen's family. She hurt Owen's new girlfriend and his mother. She had hurt this Chloe girl incredibly. And her parents, all their friends, her husband. I mean, there were so many people that were hurt. And I'm not saying that like Munchausen by proxy, like Gypsy Rose Blanchard's mother had, doesn't affect other people. It does greatly. But that to me seems like an easy explanation for what's going on here. She says that she was bored and she was in a bad place. What? You were bored and you were in a bad place? First of all, when you start watching her, I wish they would have just not cut the interview and they would have just shown her interview altogether. Because one second she says, I was bored and I was in a bad place. Then they cut to, and then a couple minutes later they come back and then she says, well, I had childhood trauma. Then she says she was assaulted. Then she says this. And then she says, well, you know, I was protective of my daughter. There's like, if you put it all together, there's like 8 different excuses and none of them are connected. So it's like, well, which one do you fucking want us to believe? Which one's the truth, you know? She said she was bored and in a bad place. I don't care. I don't really care that you were in a bad place. I don't care that you were bored. That's not a good excuse. That is not an excuse. You're a sick person. You are an absolutely sick person. The fact that she was only in jail for 1.5 years is unbelievable to me. This woman, when we talk about other people being in danger, she could get on another phone device and do the same thing to a total stranger that she doesn't know and blow up somebody's fucking life tomorrow. She could do that tomorrow. And they go in there and they talk about like her face, like she's so scared that it's going to come out publicly. And she's like, well, I don't want people in town knowing. I'm like, oh no, you need your face exposed. You need your face exposed because you want to hide behind this. See, you want to hide behind this as a cyber stalker. You want to hide behind this fake. It's easy to say some shit when you ain't showing your face. You ain't showing your life. You ain't showing your kids. It's easy to hide behind some shit, isn't it? It's real easy to hide and say whatever shit you want to say. Come out and show it with your real face. I'm glad they showed her. I'm glad they exposed this woman. She needed to be exposed. She needed everybody in that small ass town to know exactly who she was. They needed to know that, you know? That she needed to be shown, okay? What are you afraid of? If you stand behind your statement, stand behind it with your full fucking face. I would have respected her more if she would have got up there and said, yeah, I fucking said what I said, and this is who I am. They don't. They're scared. They're all of them scared on them. Anyway, she's just as scared. And then she said, She didn't want her face shown. She wanted to hide forever because she didn't want anybody in town to know. She would have hid forever. She is so delusional and denial of the truth. I'm like, this one is really, I wrote, she's really, really sick. Then they talk about the financial problems and that she didn't know what to do and her husband didn't know what to do. And that's where I put, maybe get off the phone and go get yourself a job to pay the bills instead of harassing your daughter 10 hours a day. I didn't realize I was this angry about this documentary. Then they show tens of thousands of messages. She's arrested on these charges. She has a no contact order with any of the victims, including her daughter. And her daughter's like, well, I still want a relationship with her mom. This is where it does feel like Munchausen syndrome to me, because you do see some of this in the later stages of Gypsy Rose Blanchard and other people, where they're angry, but they're protective of their mother. This girl, Lauren Licari, she needs deep therapy. I'm very worried for this young lady. I was, to be honest with you, when I got done watching it and she talks about like she's still in high school and she like hopes that like her and her mom can have a good relationship, I really was like, this was a great documentary. I don't know that, I think she's too young to give to consent. I think she's 17 or 18. I think she's too young to give consent to put her life on blast to be in this documentary. If I were her dad, I don't know that I would have put her in this documentary. I don't know. She does not seem well. She does not seem well, and I feel bad for this girl. I feel and now her life is everywhere. They're talking about it on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube. Everybody is talking about this documentary, and I feel bad for her, you know? So her mom pled guilty to 2 counts of stalking Owen and Lauren. She makes lots of excuses when she gives her statement. She talks about mental health and childhood trauma. And I wrote in here, while that is all true, I'm not taking that away from her. It's an explanation for what happened, but it doesn't excuse it. There are hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people in this world that every day and have in the past suffered childhood trauma, extreme childhood trauma, assault and violence, neglect, abuse in their life, and they do not act this way. So it's an explanation, but it's not an excuse. Lauren even kind of makes some excuses for her mom. And I'm like, this poor young lady is going to suffer for the rest of her life. She's going to suffer for the rest of her life. So Kendra gets 19 months in prison. Owen's mom, thought that Kendra was obsessed with Owen. I think there might have been a lot of text messages to Owen. We saw mostly the text messages to Lauren. I feel like there might have been text messages to Owen that we did not see that were even more sexual than what, because they were sexual to him, but we didn't see a lot of those. They kind of just scanned through them. That would have led a lot of people to believe that she was kind of like, the mom says, yeah, I think she was obsessed with Owen, and she would send him these messages and bring him, he's like, yeah, she'd bring me like food and all this kind of stuff. And then they like scanned to Kendra and she's sitting on this couch and she's like, I'm like, this is where we think that predators cannot be women, and this documentary shows that misconception. And I think that this documentary is really important for that misconception alone, you know? I mean, this woman, she needs, I don't know what she needs, okay? I am not an expert in that way, but she needs something, okay? This woman is sick. She is sick and twisted. And she did seem obsessed with this young man. And Lauren talks about her mom telling her to hurt herself, and she says she still questions it every day. Lauren seems to kind of go back and forth between like, I want a relationship with her mom, and I understand the grieving, the loss of that relationship, and she's kind of holding on to what she knew of her mom before this came out. It kind of seems to me like Lauren's still kind of shell-shocked a little bit. This is going to stop in a second. Hold on. Okay. It kind of seems to me like Lauren's still a little shell-shocked a little bit about all this. I don't know. Hold on. I went out of my notes. She says she still questions her mom, telling her to hurt herself every single day, but then she still talks to her mom. They talk like once or twice a week when she was in prison, and like they send messages to each other. They're real like sweet and like, oh, I love you so much, little girl. And I know it's weird. And I wrote in here, this poor child needs extensive therapy. She does. And she says she hopes that she can rebuild her relationship with her mom. Okay, this is where we need to normalize setting boundaries and limits for life, okay? Setting boundaries and limits with people don't always have to be, I'm setting a boundary and I'm setting a limit and we can revisit that a year or two later and hopefully we can work out that relationship. That's great sometimes, okay? But we also need to normalize that sometimes boundaries are set to never revisit. I'm setting this boundary. I don't want you in my life. You're toxic. You're not healthy. You've hurt me in a way that is unimaginable, and I no longer, even 20 years down the road, I can forgive you. But I can't forget what happened. And I am now going to suffer for the rest of my life as a result of it. So I'm setting this boundary. Well, maybe down the road, fuck that. Okay? Maybe down the road, we set another boundary because you don't remember the first boundary. I don't know where we live in this world where we constantly have to revisit boundaries and say, I hope we can rebuild this relationship. I don't think that it is healthy in any way, shape, or form for this young lady to have a relationship with her mother. Her mother seems to me very unremorseful, and even to this point, makes a lot of excuses and doesn't even seem to be able to take any accountability for her past actions. That I think she's for her daughter to say, I hope we can rebuild our relationship, I understand her saying that. I understand Lauren wanting to have that relationship with her mother that she remembers, but I hope that she's got professionals and adults around her that are saying, your mother is not in a place to do that today, okay? Emotionally, mentally, she doesn't get it yet. So whatever foundation you're rebuilding this relationship on, it's a foundation made of quicksand. Because she hasn't even done the work yet. She's only been incarcerated for 19 months, okay? It's been 2 years since all of this happened, 3 years. You're not even out of high school yet. She didn't have, you're talking about years and years and years this woman needs therapy to get to a point where any therapist should even suggest that the daughter come back into the picture. So that'll be interesting. I'm sure they'll do a follow-up documentary down the road. Anyway, Kendra says that family means a lot to her. That her family means everything to her. I'm like, what? Your family means everything to you? She goes in this whole thing about Lauren as a baby, and she starts crying about when she held Lauren, and I was like, the girl that you just fucked up her life, and you sent these horrific messages, and you told her to take her life and all that kind of stuff. Then she talks about the trauma that she had, and as with being like assaulted, and she talks about having a daughter, and as her daughter got older. This part to me was so fucked up. This is after she's out of prison, okay? This is at the point where she's wanting to rebuild a relationship with her daughter, and she says this. This is why this woman is so sick. She says that as her daughter got older, she was scared that her daughter would go through the same thing that she went through, and so she wanted to protect her from anything that she would go through. And in my head, I'm thinking to myself, so you became the predator and the perpetrator instead of the protector? Because that's not the way, okay? The way would have been to take away her phone, not to text her messages on her phone to hurt herself. Would have been to take away her phone, get her off social media, put her in a protective environment, okay? Teach her about assault, teach her about all that kind of stuff, make her aware of the world. You became the perpetrator and the predator instead of the protector. That is sick. And she still don't see it, okay? But wants to talk in the same breath about rebuilding this relationship with her. I'm like baffled. Owen says he doesn't talk to Lauren anymore. They try to do like a really good job of painting a picture like everybody feels really bad for Lauren and all this kind of stuff. I think that the perception is probably that they're like, we don't blame Lauren for it. But I think there's a lot of cathartic situations that need to happen where people, it'd be hard at 16 to understand that a girl that had gone through this would also still yearn for the relationship with her mother. As an adult, I think we understand that. As a teenager, that would be hard to understand. And so when somebody said to her, this documentary is going to do her no favors at school. Let's just be for real. Because she's like, anybody would be like, girl, why do you want a relationship with her? To anybody. But it's her mom. I've known people in my life that their parents did horrific things to them and they still wanted to have a relationship with them. I get that as an adult. It's like I said, it's not an excuse, but it's an explanation, right? So Owen says he doesn't talk to Lauren anymore. They talk about Chloe. She lost a year of her life. And I'm like, so many lives were hurt and affected. Chloe's mom is so pissed at the end of this. And she's like, the police officer didn't do his fucking job. I loved Chloe's mom in this documentary. They needed to interview her more. I loved her. And, Chloe's dad says that he originally told the police officer to look into Kendra, and the police officer never did it, and that's why they're sitting there saying, and he never did his job, and our daughter suffered for it for a year. I'd be fucking pissed too. I think they should sue that police officer. I think they should sue that county for their daughter going through that. Their daughter literally went through abuse at the hands of the police officer because they never looked into a clue that the parents gave them, and it ended up being that woman. And she continued to do it and hurt people. Then Lauren talks about how she hasn't seen her mom in a year and a half. She's not sure if she trusts her. Why would you? Why would you trust her? Do you need 1,000-page? I really hope this girl I hope she's in some therapy, like intensive. I just hope she is. Kendra says that she thinks that they can have a healthy relationship at some point. Lauren says that she loves her more than anything. Loves her mom more than anything. I'm like, and this is when I wrote down, why would you allow your daughter to be in this documentary? As the mother or as the father, I'm not sure, unless Lauren is 18 years old and she might be, that she chose to be in this documentary. I'm not sure why she would put herself through this trauma 2 years after it's happened for a Netflix show that a lot of people are having a lot of opinions about. You know, and I just want to say, like, I'm going to read this on here. I have this definition of forgiveness that I love. I love this definition of forgiveness. I have shared it on here. This is from June 25th of 2020. I wrote it on here. Forgiveness is giving up the hope that the past could be any different. It means accepting that it has happened to you, not accepting that it was okay. Accepting that it has happened, and now what do I do about it so that the past does not hold me hostage? So what this definition of forgiveness means is that you look at things that have happened to you in your past, okay? And you say, what happened, happened. And I need to not, well, what if it hadn't happened? Or what if something else had happened? Or what if it had turned out differently? Accepting that what happened, happened. And accepting that as a reality, okay? And then saying to myself, now what do I need to do to go on so that I am not held hostage to that event that is holding me and tying me to the past? I think sometimes what we get confused about is that forgiveness is saying to somebody, I am forgetting and releasing you of any responsibility over what you did to me, okay? In this situation, forgiveness would be saying, I understand that you sent me thousands of messages, sexualizing me, putting me down, feeding into my insecurities, and telling me to hurt myself as my mother. And I will never forget that. And anytime I choose to forget that, I will read the 1,000 pages that I have. And Owen should do the same thing, and so should Chloe, and so should the police officers, and so should her ex-husband. And Kendra should probably also read those 1,000 pages on a daily reminder of who she was, okay? Forgiveness is saying, and who do I want to be going forward? I am not witnessing that Kendra has made any changes going forward or that she's accepting any real responsibility or accountability to show that she's a real changed person to be allowed that forgiveness at this time. But that is just me watching a documentary. I don't know. I feel really bad for everybody involved in this situation. I hope that Lauren is getting the help that she needs. They didn't say anything really about that at the end of the documentary. Let me know what you thought about this. I know that y'all have a lot of opinions. I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.